Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Reliant Kitten Restoration. As you'll have seen in the Bond Bug video, this run late. I was supposed to have this videoed prior to this, but things got in the way of work, Bond Bug breaking, and yeah, a lot of bits and pieces. But we're here, so that's the main thing. In today's video, we've got a nice seized engine in front of us. And it is properly seized, it won't turn. I don't know if it's all the bores that are stuck. I don't know if it's just one of the push rod lifters that's jammed. I don't know. It's a seized engine, we know that much. What we're going to do today is strip the gearbox off, the clutch off, and get this fitted into an engine stand ready to go and get it repaired. Well, when I say ready to go, I mean ready for me to repair it. So, what I'll do is, we'll grab some tools and we'll get cracking, because it's all pretty simple things. Thankfully all the tools we need for this removal are still out, because it was the ones for the Bond Bug. So we were really speaking about a 1/2 inch spanner. I tend to use the ring spanner for these. There will be a case on this where we won't be able to use the ring spanner, just because of the type, well, mainly because of what it is. So first port of call is going to be the starter motor. So I'll jump sides. I'm going to leave this ring spanner at this side, or that combination spanner at that side, because we do need a 1/2 inch combination for taking the bell housing bolts out at the bottom. Now, oh, that's actually very easy. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Fortunately, it's not very good to just change position for doing this job. It will be one I might be blocking the camera at times. So, we'll just crank this nut off. It's actually come off not bad at all. I do know this starter turns because I have tried it by hand and it is free. So there's a good chance this starter might be salvageable, which is always a good starting point for when you're ready to build the engine back up again. And a money saving bit, because you wanted to buy new starters for it. The bottom one, there's no doubt this is going to be loose, because it's absolutely covered in grease and oil, as most of the engine is anyway. I think it's been a quite oily, leaky engine, this. Where the oil's been coming from, I'm not sure. But we will definitely not be having a leaky engine when we rebuild it. If we do, it doesn't look that great. And I don't want to have that, to be honest. I want this kitten to be one of those kittens you look at and you go, wow, what was that? Not a, oh, it's another Reliant kitten. And by the way, when I'm saying, oh, it's another Reliant kitten, I'm being a bit sarcastic. The spinning bit of the starter is seized, as can be expected. What I'm going to do with this is, because it could be quite some time before I get the engine rebuilt, rather than put these in a box together and forget which is which, I'm going to put the starter bolts back into the starter. And that way, when we come to rebuild it, we won't lose the bits. So that one's in, and one starter. Now I have got a box sat out ready. Well, when I say sat out ready, it's actually in the shelf full of bits. So starter can go in there out the way. And we're now on to the bell housing. So the bell housing's all 1/2 inch bolts that hold it on. Now, I don't know how easy this will be to do. Hopefully not too tricky. But there's two very awkward bolts to get faults like this. And they are right at the very bottom of the bell housing. So if I give this a little, there we go. This is when it would be ideal if I hadn't sat my torch down somewhere and actually had it on. So there's 2 bolts. We'll get them out right now. These are right at the bottom of the bell housing. The only main reason I'm starting with these is, for the rest of it, you'll be able to see better what's happening. What I'll have to do is get a little tub for all these bolts though. But we'll live with it just now. Getting washers off of studs is one of the worst things to do. So there's one of them. There's actually 3, I've just spotted a 3rd one. Now I might go a bit quiet during some of these bits, because I have to admit, taking some of these bits off isn't the easiest of jobs sometimes, especially when likes of that can happen. I didn't injure myself to say, I just gave my finger a light tap with a, I think it was a gearbox, but it's okay, I'm still good. So we'll just put that. It's actually sitting like that now. It means I can get a tub and a screwdriver to help me get those elusive washers off. Now, I've got a little tub here, this will do. I need a screwdriver, so we will go for one of the older ones, I think. This one. So this is just for all the nuts and bolts that hold this engine on. Now I will say I might have to interrupt this filming with a short interlude at some point, because today is the day of the barbers and everything open in Scotland. So I am booked in at the local barber. I'm on a waiting list, which I will get a phone call at some point to say, that's us free, come over now for your appointment. And at that point I will have to drop everything and disappear for a haircut. But have no worry, I will be back to this after I've had my haircut. Just for you guys it'll be 2 seconds, for me it'll probably be an hour or so. Just by the time we go over, get a haircut, come back, get back into the work gear and all the rest of it. Now I'm quite positive this is, somebody's repaired this, because there's never bolts that hold this in. It's always threaded studs. And this looks like a UNF bolt instead of a UNF nut. What's slightly worrying about that is that although it's a UNF thread nut, the thread on the half that goes into the gearbox is actually UNC. So it's whether this has been tapped out to go to UNC or not, I'm not entirely sure. It does look like it. So we've got that bit out. Right, we can put this engine back in the stand the way it was. A little bit of struggle maybe. There we go. Right, now we'll spin that round so you can see. Now we'll go to the side that hopefully is not going to block your view. So we've got 3 nuts off there. I'll start at the bottom, we'll just do the side you won't see is the one that basically top of the, in line with the top of the sump pan, or sump. I don't know why I called it a sump pan there. I was thinking oil pan and sump and came out with something new. But anyway, it's in line with the top of the sump. You've got to watch those bouncy bolts, they're always quite troublesome then. there's one good news about this engine. Although it's seized, the clutch is not. Because I have been trying to turn it over with a big spanner, or adjustable spanner, and the engine is turning. No, the gearbox is spinning, the clutch is spinning, but the engine is not. So that's one good news. We don't have to worry about a seized gearbox. Although I imagine the clutch will need replaced. It's not often I don't replace clutches, especially when this one was partially seized when I first started turning it. And a partially seized clutch normally seizes again. So I will probably change it for a new one. Either that, we'll clean everything up, make sure it won't seize, and take it from there. I like that noise when a nut just cracks off. That tunk. Now this is only half the battle, of course. Once we get this last nut out, there's very little chance of this gearbox just deciding to give way and come loose. It will probably need a gentle tap with a persuader, as I like to call them. I like how easy these bolts come out though. And they've been sitting in this engine for God knows how long. And yet, just a slight, yeah, it's totally seized. This is when one of my favourite tools I bought comes into use. I've got two hammers that are really good for stock things and very minimal damage. A rubber mallet and a weighted rubber mallet. So I'll try the weighted one first. I can already see that splitting. We're away. So I'll grab the back of the gearbox like this, give it a wiggle. One gearbox. Last time I did that with a gearbox, poor I liked the back side of it, so we'll watch it. And here we go. One seized engine. This is I think this is a Laycock clutch in it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a Laycock clutch. This is the same one I just took out the bone bug. Now, because this engine's seized, normally you have to use an impact gun on these because you won't turn them. But this one, being seized, you can just go around it and literally go and burn the things off. Because the engine's just not going anywhere. All I'll do is we'll grab the ratchet so we can nip them off a bit faster. Top tip from Lewi Productions, always watch where you're sitting down against. As I just sat against a Reliant water pump. No, don't want that. Want to keep the socket under there so I can whirl it out. That's where I was finished with the gearbox bolts actually, so I could probably get rid of that pail, get a lid on it. Now, normally I would be tempted to take the flywheel off at this point, but I'm also tempted to leave it on because it's a nice prying point to try and free off the stock engine. As you can see, it's well and truly stuck. Hey guys, so earlier on, I don't know if I've now studied the video clip overly too much, But my mic ran out of volume, which turned the camera off. So somewhere in the earlier footage, you'll have been watching and it'll have just went dump and stopped. So I apologise for that. But in the meantime, I have gotten the microphone charged now, so we can crack on. So I've got the engine in the stand, which took a little minute to do. And we're now at the process where we can start taking it to bits. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the alternator off, because it's just not needed to be on here just now. I think it does turn. Whether or not it works is not a clue at the moment. So what I'm doing is, there's a bolt down in here, which we've got out now. So that's that side, the alternator slackened. There's another one in here. So we've got a slack in as well. Put my tools up on top of the Regal. Now this alternator should go like that. And that's it. So what I'll do is, again, because it could be a while before this goes back onto the car, or back on the engine even, I will put the bolts in the same order they came off of this. So that's that way. That way, when we put it together, I don't need to spend hours thinking which way around did those go again. So that's the alternator off. I believe these, I can't remember off the top of my head actually the name of these ones. They'll come to me. I've got the boxes for them still in the workshop, because I have bought these new old stock before. So that's out the way. There's a couple of caps on here. They could easily come off as well, although they're not affecting us at the moment. What we'll do next is we'll take off the inlet manifold. Now there's a bolt down here which just looks like it's not going to come off. We'll give it a try. I believe it could be the 7/16. Nope. It's possibly just a bolt. So we'll try a 12 on it. It's a metric bolt. So that means this car's had some metric parts stuck on it. And that's not surprising. It's sheared. So I've got a pail sitting here for bits and pieces. We'll just put it in there. Not a big problem, but we'll just change it. These can't be undone with anything except spanners, unfortunately. The top ones, because they sit into little recesses on the manifold. What I will be doing with this, since I should explain it to you so you're on the same idea as me, I'm going to take off the manifolds. I'm going to take off basically everything that's attached to the head. I'm going to try and turn it again, which I imagine won't move. Once everything's taken off, I will then take the sump off, see what condition everything is in there. What's good to note is this engine did have oil in it when it arrived here. So because it had oil in it, we know that it's not going to be absolutely seized. I don't have the half in there, because it's up here. So it'll be interesting to see what we're going to come across when we go to get the top, or get the sump off. My theory at the moment is that it should be in quite good nick. No problems, because it had oil in it. Worst case scenario, the oil was just holding water and everything's rusted up. Gotta love it when a nut decides to just stick halfway in the thread. I'll have to get a screwdriver. Just helps to push the nut out the bottom of these. So that's one. I'll probably need that for the next one as well. Now this manifold should split into two pieces. That's what that bolt was that I took out just a few seconds ago. Whether that actually still happens is another thing altogether. So what's really sticking these nuts in here is the fact that it's covered in oil. It's just turned quite thick and gloopy. So everything's just sticking quite well to everything in place. Needle nose pliers. To take the lock washers off. If we give this a little helping hand, hopefully. Need the rubber mallet, I think. It is. You've got to remember this manifold's been sitting on this car for years now. So it is just stock. There's one. There's another there. Same with this one. And then this should once we get it moving, off it comes. We've got one manifold. The exhaust one should be same idea, apart from you can actually get a socket onto all of them. You can actually see how much a greasy hold that nuts have gotten now. You go to take it off, it actually sticks to the socket. That's not even, again, it's not like the, well, tight fitting. They're going onto things easily. That one's a bit better. Now I did notice while I was looking at this manifold, it's had one of the, oh, that came out, that stud's come out the head. But when I was looking at the manifold, one leg for where the exhaust bolts on is actually broken off. Which is not a major problem, we can sort it. So that's another job to the list. Not a tricky one. But another job. nonetheless. So that's that one. As with everything on this little engines, they're quite compactly built. So it takes a bit of manoeuvring about to get everything off the way you want it to come off. And then this cylinder head, I am expecting to put up a little bit of a fight with. Once again, with lock washers. And the reason I'm using a pointed pliers for these is because I find it a lot easier than trying to pull them off with my fingers, because they're very awkward things to get to. That ones aren't bad. That one in there though, just slightly awkward. So that's that. Trusty rubber mallet. Give it a tap. Off it comes. There's the damage I was speaking about. Quite confident we can sort that. So I'm not going to put the exhaust manifold in that box because there's just no space. It can go in the big tray. The next port of call will be the water pump. It's another one that not much things fit on except from a spanner. I think we're going to get rid of this first actually, because it's just sitting in the way. And, well, really falling in the way is the better word for it. I've never actually seen a Reliant with an earth strap onto the engine. They normally have the earth strap from the chassis to the engine, but from the battery to the engine? That's a new one for me. But it could be the way a Kitten's built, I just don't know. So we've got to remember, as this engine was fitted into the Super Robin when it first came here, I think we could just take that off. There's no point of having that bracket on there. We'll put it in with the manifold bits. But that bolt is staying on the head because we'll need that when it's built up again. Wire can go into there, out of the way. And now we're onto this one. So what I want to do is get all these bolts loosened off. So that one there is for the tensioner for the belt onto the water pump. What we'll do with these is we'll put them in another tub just to keep them separate so it's easier knowing what's what. So that's a little tub just for them. I don't know why I picked up that there, because it doesn't fit anything. And here, bolt number 2. Now the Kitten has a steel fan, or it should have a steel fan like the Regal. I can't quite understand really how the Kitten continued with 4-blade steel fan and water pump, which has the 4 bolt holes on it, yet the Robin, when it was put out, had the 3-hole plastic fans, which I've actually, this fan's broken, but it shows you 3 holes. That one's got 4 all diagonals. Same water pump. In fact, you don't get the 4-holed ones anymore. If you want to fit one of a new water pump to the Reliant, it's normally you have to go for the 3-holed ones and the plastic fan. I don't know if they're better at keeping the engine cool. I know they've less blades obviously because the 4 blades compared to 3. But I don't know. At the moment, I'm not overthinking that one. That engine there I've only just discovered is an 850, no 750 even. I thought it was an 850. Why I thought it was an 850 I don't know. But hey ho, it's on my list to build up now as a spare 750 engine. And I do have an 850 in bits as well, thankfully now. There's always one that's quite stiff. And this is the one down here. I think that's it. Nope. What you've got to remember is when you're doing this on the car, it can be an absolute nightmare because, fair enough, I'm just standing here and it's quite simple. Just put the spanner on, turn the nut. In the car, you're leaning down with a little space at the front and it's not very pleasant. Though I'll give it its dues, I've never worked on a kitten until now, so it might be simpler on a kitten, I don't know, but a freewheeler, or a Robin, or a Regal, any of them, it isn't. It's usually one of those jobs where you're going to start working on it and have quite a lot of things to say to it. That's it going. Remember, when you're working these, you do want to try and work them back and forth. The last thing you want to do is just smack them one way, because all you will do is break something. Look at that. Out comes that. We'll get our first look into the water channels. That water pump's actually feels quite good condition, so I'll probably get a clean up and refit. I'm quite happy with that one. So we'll stick that in here as well. I'll move that to the back. That there. Now obviously it is full of corrosion, as can be expected. I mean, I've never seen one that isn't corroded. Next job's on the top of the engine. Let's be honest, I'm not going to do that. The reason I'm not going to do that is prising about it will just cause unnecessary stress to me and to some, maybe the engine, but more to me. So we'll just do that. I already know from earlier that some of these rockers are seized, but going from that bolts, that was pretty easy. So we'll put our exhaust and inlets box in there. We'll grab another one for putting the head parts in of. It's always important when you're building an engine or taking one to bits to have plenty of containers to put different bits in of. You will have a lot of parts and you don't want to mix them up. The last thing you want to do is put bits in the wrong thing, because when you go to build it, you will go, where did I put that? It's also important to try and not drop things. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put them in there. I was not entirely sure how this is going to come off. It is slightly moving. I do like that. Slight bit of tap with a hammer, and away she goes. That's it. Off the cylinder head, and as expected, seized solid. So I'm not going to play around with that just now, that's for a later day. We can also see there that number 1, 4, 5 and 8 are all stuck down in the valves. Some of these push rods are seized in as well. So that's no surprise why it's not turning. So what the next port of call is to get these push rods out. Now, I'm going to do this correctly for us, which is using a bit of cardboard is what the first thing we need is. And a pen, which I believe I've got both down here. So I was cleaning out here the other day, so cardboard was one of the things that I seen and went, oh, that could go in the bin. But thankfully I haven't binned it all. I think we'll go for this bit. So take a bit of cardboard, take a pen. I'll neaten this up before we come back onto camera with the scissors. I'm sure I just had them. Looking everywhere and they're right in front of me. So I'll just neaten this cardboard up. All we're going to do is take this bit of cardboard and I'll write fan. And G-box. Basically, that's your orientation of the engine. Put that pen back where it was supposed to be. And what we're going to do is basically take these out. Blimey Nora. I've never had a push rod I couldn't get out. This is going to go out with a plop, I think. Wow. Never had one that stiff. So I'm going to get a bit of cloth actually and clean these as we're going. Because these are disgusting. So this rag will be for the bin after this. So we've got push rod number 1 out. I'm just starting for the gearbox side this time. So that's 1. What we'll do is we'll set them up here. That's 2. That one came out not too bad. Still a lot of rubbish in there. 3. That's a lot of rust. Just covered in it. Probably I'll wipe off. I think this one is actually rusty. So even after I wipe, it's quite ballooned out. That'll clean up, but it's one of the jobs now to add to the list. So that one in there, so that's 4, that's half of them. Oh, that one's stuck. Where there's a will, there's a way though. And I have got a claw hammer. So I will just hook it onto that valve. And that's it. Covered with old rubbish again. That one burst through a bit too much. There's another one, quite poor condition. I mean, all these will go through a wire brush on the before they get fitted. Last two, that one's stuck and that one's stuck. Right, had to be two behind bits. I can't get a good prize. Oh, there we go. That's one. That one's totally full of rubbish. Though not as bad condition as that really bad one. And last one, pry bar hammer again. Oh, we've got the valve moving instead of that is tough. Try again. There we go. Another one full to the brim of rubbish. I mean, it's no wonder this engine wouldn't turn. You've got to think all the stresses that these extra blockages are going to be doing to it. So there we go. 8 push rods, all in order, ready to fit when the engine's rebuilt, in the same orders that they came out. Just for safety, I'm going to put it in the same one that my inlet outputs are in, as I know it won't move from there. So we've got the worst bits out. Now we're onto the cylinder head. Just out of curiosity, now that we've moved that blockages, I'm going to try a pry bar on the engine. Just to see what it does. And I'm imagining it will not move. There was a little bit of turning actually. So it's not really as much as what we'd want. Next stage is to take the cylinder head off. So we've already got some of the bolts in there. We're just going to use the same container as the rocker ones and put all the nuts and bolts from here into it. So put that one in there. This has the bits that we need on it. Use the extension. Like so. Now, some of you may be shouting at me going, is that the order that it says to do it in the book? And this is not the order it would probably say to do it in the book. This is just the order that I'm taking these off. Right, so we now need to just get the last bits off, which requires a 9/16 quarter inch. The reason I'm not taking them fully off with a gun is because they will just zip off and take off pretty fast. And we don't really want that. There's my handy ratchet holder. So there's washers on below every one of these head bolts. And I should remind you, this isn't all the head bolts we've undone. There's 3 1/2-inch bolts down next to all the spark plugs, which is my next port of call. First time is get all these off and then move on to the lower bolts. and then we'll see if the head comes off. Now I am expecting to see a great load of oil sitting in every cylinder, because that's where I put it. If there is no oil in the cylinders, I'll be even happier, because that means it's seeping down past the sides of the pistons and it's not seized, or at least the cylinders aren't causing the problem. If it's stuck on top of the cylinders though, that means they're all stuck and they won't budge. And believe me, I do have a few ideas I've been having to try and unseize it if it is the cylinders. One of them being take all the liners out and just replace them all, which is quite expensive. My other idea is possibly see if I can press them out and reuse the cylinder liners. Again, could be problematic, especially because the liners probably won't be usable. The third one is try and unseize it without taking the liners out at all. To do that, I was going to try and get a hold of a little oxyacetylene kit, heat up each liner, and gradually loosen off the pistons. It could also be the case though that I take all this to bits, the pistons are fine, the big end's fine, and it's all just the actual rocker push rods that are causing the issues. So that's all the 9/16 ones out the way. We now want to grab a 1/2 inch. I use the ring spanner just because it works a lot better. These are supposed to be 15 Newton meters if I remember right when they're tightened up. I don't know how they tighten them up to 15 Newton meters because my Newton torque wrench would not have fitted in there. I usually just do them up to what I would say is tight and go, that's perfect. I've never actually had a problem with them either since doing that. Slowly, one by one. By the way, in case you guys are wondering, I'm still waiting to go over for my haircut. I haven't heard anything yet, and that was early on today that I went over to see about getting it cut. But, oh well. We'll just see how it goes. So, this is the last head bolt. I can see this not being a very good cylinder head to come off. I've never really had one that just lifted. Usually always need some gentle persuasion. In the last few cylinder heads I've done, it's all been with the weighted mallet. Well, I've managed to drop the nut down the back of the bit I'm trying to get it out of this time. There's the nut. Lock washer, that one's off. That's them all off. I really imagine this is going to take a fair whack to get it to come off, but we'll get the weighted mallet and we'll give it a try. I usually start from here. I can't believe that's actually came loose. That is loose. So basically I can't see this lifting. If it does, this will be a first for me. So all I'm going to do is, because it's stuck, is edge it up, end by end. Oh, I can see every one of them sitting full of fluid. That means they're all seized. I'm just going to square that engine up. What we'll do is we'll stick the... because I actually lost that pin for ages. There's the best way not to lose it again. Right. Ooh. Close. I think it's stuck on this corner. Oh, it's off that side. It's now back on that side. Just this end that's holding it. Let's give it a try again. There we go, it's off. The cylinder head doesn't look too bad. Nothing that a skim won't fix. So we'll set that next to the engine. As much as I'd like to get it in them on the part, so I don't think I can. And what's the side? The bores are actually clean. Ah, all the bores are sitting in the exact same place. So I imagine they aren't having a chance to turn. See if we can wring this thing out a bit. I mean, the oil that's in here is quite old. It's been in here since well, when October time, I believe it was. So it's been there quite a while. Maybe November actually. It's all penetrating fluid that's in this engine as well. In fact, no, definitely October, because I took these plugs out the same week the car came home. Because I believed it was the Robin engine. And I took it out and started soaking them. The good thing is the barrels, or the bores, are actually looking quite clean. They're not that bad actually, just obviously sitting stuck. What's annoying is they're all at the same height, so getting these to move is going to be quite tricky. And all the water galleries in the engine are totally blocked. So we've got a mixture of old oil, which we'll get rid of later. That cloth there. And I'm afraid that's it for this episode of the Kitten Restoration. To find out more about this engine, you'll have to tune in next time. and we'll see what is actually wrong with it and what's causing it to be stuck. Hopefully we'll get it moving again. But anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of stripping down a good bit of the engine. If you want to keep up to date with the kitten, the Regal, the Bond Bug, the Super Van, the Super Robin, or anything else Reliant related on this channel, remember and hit the subscribe button and like the video and comment and let me hear from you. Tell me what you'd like to see on these videos. And of course, stay tuned to see part 2 and how we get this unstuck. And the how will be quite fun bit. But anyway guys, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.